Again, we all know what happened in Nashville, Tennessee, the tragedy that befell 6 innocent lives, and the Republicans' response to it. Or should I say, lack of response to it. This article from Salon.com, Trump wants Americans to think society is in a apocalyptic wasteland and mass shootings help him, is the perfect example of this.
3 precious little kids lost their lives, and I believe 3 adults, and the shooter, of course, lost their life too. So it's a horrible, horrible situation, and we're not going to fix it. Criminals are going to be criminals, and my daddy fought in the Second World War, fought in the Pacific, fought the Japanese, and he told me, he said, buddy, he said, if somebody wants to take you out and doesn't mind losing their life, there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do about it.
That's the voice of Representative Tim Burchett of Tennessee, who is much blunter than some of his fellow Republicans, who mostly ran away from reporters or offered bland thoughts and prayers in response to the Monday's shooting in Nashville that left 3 kids, 3 school employees, and the shooter dead. But Burchett himself, a hardline Trumpist who voted in support of Donald Trump's attempted coup in 2021, was certainly on message with what the Republican Party is telling America. Abandon all hope. I don't think you're going to stop the gun violence, he continues on, arguing that the only thing that could possibly work is a mass conversion to his version of Christianity. Quoting him, as a Christian, we talk about the church. I've said this many times. I think we really need a revival in this country, end quote. This religious powerbomb is just a fig leaf, of course, but for what is essentially a nihilistic message. It's as if Burchett took Karl Marx's saying about the opium of the masses as a blueprint. This rhetoric is about denying that change on earth is possible and suggesting that people focus on praying for miracles that will never come. This is grim stuff, to be sure, but very on base for the Republican Party. They are, after all, a party still completely in the thrall of Donald Trump, whose main campaign message is that America is in a hellscape and is beyond redemption, and that the only viable response is about retribution. Last Saturday, his burn it all down message assumed a new metaphorical meaning as he held a rally in Waco, Texas, 30 years to the day of the FBI standoff with a group of doomsday cultists who ultimately choose to die by fire rather than to surrender their own illegal weapons. Trump's speech was a cut-rate version of the apocalyptic ramblings of the Waco cult leader David Koresh, full of talk of how the country is failing, how our society has collapsed, and the upcoming presidential election is in its, quoting him, final battle. The trappings of the rally, which opened with a montage of the January 6th insurrection, only enhanced the Armageddon messaging. There is little doubt what mental space Donald Trump wants his followers in. Rage, despair, fear. And Trump's policies may not be all that different from the far-right views of Ronald Reagan. But as Heather Digby Patton noted on Salon recently, the sunny optimism of Reagan's Morning of America has been uprooted and replaced with doom and gloom messaging. The last thing MAGA stands for, in fact, is making America great, much less great again. These people are caught up in a dark fantasy that they live in a zombie movie. Trump has his own self-interested reasons for the doomsday messaging, especially in light of the growing possibility that he may actually face legal consequences for his life of crime. But he didn't invent these ominous attitudes among Republicans. He instead has harnessed and exaggerated an existing apocalyptic mindset on the right that dates at least back to the ugly Tea Party reaction to the election of President Barack Obama. For more than a decade now, Republicans have felt, with some justification, that they benefit if voters feel assailed by despair and fear, and have done everything in their power to create and augment those vibes. Tune in on Fox News on any given night, you get a full blast of it. In the fantasy America of that network's talking heads, obviously I'm talking about Lauren Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, and Sean Hannity, American cities have been burned to the ground and residences can't leave their homes without being shot or robbed. Viewers are encouraged to believe that they're one stray political incorrect away from being canceled by woke mobs. A fire hose of lies about Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and the LGBTQ community activists paints a profoundly delusional picture of an American taken over by criminals and degenerates. Schools, they're told, are grooming kids for sexual abuse. No one doubts that this nation has problems, but none of these hysterics reflect the reality outside the television screen of Republicans. Even crime, although rising in response to the global pandemic, remains exceptionally lower than it was in the 1980s and the 1990s. Like most of the fears that animate the right, that is a phantom, propped up to keep their adrenaline coursing and their rational faculties shut down. Mass shootings, which are both legitimately terrifying and attention-grabbing, are a boon to a party that thrives on fear and anguish. Unlike most of the terror porn chummed out by the right-wing media, the horror of Monday's shooting in Nashville was all too real. The sheer blowing out windows and stalking hallways, the fleeing children, the weeping parents, the cops rushing the building to take the killer out. Unlike Antifa riots and the financial fires burning down American cities, that all happened. It's no wonder the immediate Republican response to the mass shootings is to fight like hell to block anyone who tries to slow down the mayhem. This isn't not about the political power of the NRA anymore, the gun lobby that has lost much of its financial clout. But Republicans believe that mass anxiety benefits them. So anything that keeps the public on the edge is a political win. Most of the time, they have to make up threats to scare people. Not with mass shootings, though, which are real and occur day after day, week after week in America. Even before Monday's shooting, we had another round of discussion about the need to ban assault rifles, driven by a Washington Post report about how guns like AR-15s are even deadlier than handguns. And Senator Sherrod Brown, Democrat of Ohio, said on Twitter, guns like the ones used in Monday's shootings are weapons of war, unquote. They exist only for the purpose of mowing down large numbers of people and have no relationship to self-defense claims of the gun lobby. Of course, the reason Republicans are so eager to defend the supposed right to own assault rifles has nothing to do with self-defense. As Trump Waco rally demonstrated, there's a concentrated effort to convince Republican voters that this country is already at war with itself. Trump was unsuitably invoking the vibes of a far-right militia movement, which armed themselves explicitly because they imagine militaristic conflicts such as race wars or violent clashes with federal authorities. Taking assault rifles off the streets will be a direct attack on one of the most powerful propaganda techniques Republicans use to keep their voters in a combative state of mind. In response to this, progressive activists and Democrats must resist giving in to despair. Yes, it can feel hopeless at times, especially when Republicans have far more political power than their numbers really should grant them. Thanks to gerrymandering, voter suppression, and the undemocratic nature of the Senate and the Electoral College. But for long and adrift is exactly what the right wants. Depressed people give up. Hopelessness feeds itself. The only way to break the cycle is to believe that things can get better with enough hard work. Look to places like Michigan, where a Democratic win in the midterms have already led to rapid change. Optimism isn't foolish. It's the best weapon, really the only weapon, the left has to defeat nihilism. First of all, that article was incredibly scathing, but it was absolutely true. People like this Tennessee congressman, they don't see any kind of resolution to gun violence. They don't want to see a resolution to gun violence. One, because it's too hard to think about it for them, and two, they don't want to lose votes. And it feeds into their lie that transgender people in this country are attacking Christianity. That is a lie. But to say that we're not going to do anything about it, that shows to me that you've given up completely. Excuse my language for saying this. You're practically saying, fuck the victims. Fuck those kids. Fuck those teachers. Fuck the victims of every mass shooting in this country. Fuck them. For that kind of attitude, this representative in Tennessee and every other congressman and senator who has that kind of nihilistic attitude, saying we're not going to stop this is too hard, we're not going to stop this, fuck the victims. Honestly, thoughts and prayers have become code for fuck them. Honestly, the people who say that need to be removed from office. If you're not going to do the job you were hired to do, which is to protect the American people, then you have no business being in office. Fuck the victims? No. Fuck you. CTP Know The Truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.